On in San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer.
There could be a serial killer in Chicago.
The Oakland County child killer.
Phantom killer.
Frankfurt slasher.
4 children have now been murdered.
Has killed 5 and says he's going to kill again.
15 brutally murdered young women.
The pattern is the same.
One by one,
the death count started rising.
A man in a mask robbed, tied, and stabbed them.
Strangled, stuffed in burlap bags.
It is highly unlikely that these women were murdered by separate men.
Where will the killer strike next?
Police can't answer who or why.
That's the question.
Yeah, man. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative Podcast. And I'm your host, 12 Gauge. You know, tonight I really don't feel like being on camera again. So just thought I'd get on here and kind of go around and check out some different stuff. Might even turn on my Facebook page because they got plenty of stuff. But for the first part, let's go to a town that is almost in, I would say, southwest of Texas. It's called San Angelo, Texas. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But they have a lot of stuff going on in the last couple of weeks. And this is a murder investigation. Let's dive into it.
In the early morning hours on Saturday, March 21st, at about 1:29 a.m., the San Angelo Police Department was dispatched to the 100 block of East Concho due to a reported stabbing. Upon officers' arrival, they located the victim suffering from significant injuries, and it was later confirmed to be the result of a stabbing. The victim was transported by the San Angelo Fire Department to Shannon Hospital, where hours later he succumbed to his injuries. The victim is being identified as 32-year-old Mark Palacio, a San Angelo resident. Officers began to get.
You know, for some reason, stabbings have increased, and I don't have a clue why. I don't know if it's because of the area of the country in which we're living over here by the border. I don't know if it's something that the kids get more access to knives, or you know, it's easier to assault somebody with a knife. Either way, it's a violent way to die. So this individual lost his life.
Other information and contact witnesses on scene. It was reported that earlier in the morning, there had been an altercation at another bar between two groups of individuals. These two groups were separated without incident at the other location. These two groups again encountered each other in the 100 block of East Concho after being refused entry into this establishment. A violent encounter.
And you know what's sad is that area right there, probably 2022, 2020, around that area, a group of Marines got into it with a group of civilians, and one of the civilians shot and killed a couple of Marines because there is a military base there in San Angelo. It's called Goodfellow Air Force Base. But, just like with any Air Force base, any base around the country, there are different types of, armed services, armed forces there. Sparse, not a good look, man.
Encounter occurred, and Mark Palacio received a fatal injury. During the investigation, it was learned that the suspect, Johnny Fernandez, 41-year-old San Angelo resident, stabbed the victim in the abdomen during this physical altercation. Furthermore, evidence revealed that Pedro Rivera, a 25-year-old San Angelo resident, threatened the victim with bodily injury while also holding a knife. And this is where I'd like to highlight the difference between the charges that have been filed at this time, one being charged with murder and the other being charged with aggravated assault with the deadly weapon threats. This is what we know at the time, and this is subject to change based off the information that we have. I again want to encourage you and join me.
To be stabbed in the abdomen, that is an awful way to go. Like I've shared with you guys in the past, I had an uncle that was attacked violently. He had a beer bottle smashed over his head, and he was stabbed with the broken beer bottle part, and it was in his abdomen area and the liver part. And when you're stabbed like that, it's very difficult to save your life. So for somebody to be 41 years old and out there fighting and hurting other people, it just doesn't make sense to me. Go home already. Be at home with your wife, your family, whatever you got. It doesn't make sense. 41 years old, about to lose everything he has over a drunken night.
And praying for the loved ones of the victim. And before I take any questions, I think it goes without saying that it's been a hard week for our community in relations to crime. It's not very often that we have 2 homicides in 1 week, let alone multiple drive-by shootings on top of those. It says stretch the San Angelo Police Department, and it's important to highlight just how much time and energy goes into these types of investigations. This is difficult.
And that's something that people don't really take into account. They always think the police don't do their due diligence when they're investigating a crime. Did you hear what that man said? The police department has been pulled thin by these 2 crimes by themselves. San Angelo is about 180,000 people. Not to mention the base, the university, the oil field workers around, the wind turbine people. I mean, it's an oasis in the middle of a desert. It's what it is.
Long, tedious investigations of our staff we're running short on. These 2 things that I want to highlight, though, is that both homicide suspects and all parties that were involved as suspects were taken into custody within 48 hours. And I just want to say thank you to the men and women of the San Angelo Police Department for the long hours and all the work that's come out of our detectives, from our officers that responded, to our crime scene investigators, and our special operations unit, which houses our gang unit. And with that, I will take questions.
You said this happened at the 1000 block of East Concho, or the address?
The question is the location. It happened in the 100 block of East Concho, not necessarily at a particular location. It's outside of.
Okay, and I will pull that up on a map so that we can check that out once he finishes his press conference, and then we will go around and just check it out, see what's going on in the world as far as crime, because believe it or not, there's more going on in the world today, every day, than just the Idaho Force stuff, you know? Believe it or not.
An establishment there.
Was this gang related?
You know, we are currently looking into any gang connection, but there's nothing that we can show at this time that was the driving force. But we will be looking at all angles of whether or not there's an enhanceable element there.
Chief Griffin, I'm just coming off of social media, so
Yes,
I have to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's some discussion about maybe the police feel some type of responsibility since they had a chance to keep this from happening when it first popped off at that other bar, and they let everyone go that they had detained, including the deceased. If they had done their job and arrested them all, then everyone would be alive.
So the question is being posed is, does the police have some sort of liability or connection or sorrow for not taking police action at a earlier event? I would say that throughout San Angelo, we go to many different establishments and we make different choices on whether or not we're going to take enforcement or let people get a ride and go home. That happens all day, every day. We can't guess and second guess what's going to happen. We're going to walk through.
Well, that's true. I mean, because people do assume that, you know, had the police intervened at the first bar where the altercation started, maybe these individuals would have, you know, gotten arrested, gotten separated, went their own ways, but they each headed to a different location, and this is where the altercation happened. I'm about to show you here in a minute.
What we know, when we know, and we'll handle it as such. So that would be my response to that.
All right, follow-up question. You know, there's a theory of policing, the broken window theory.
Yes, sir.
And this is obviously, we have some broken windows. Is there anything that the police is going to do to crack down on gangs or crack down on, well, another thing is there's probably 7 or 8 parking lots downtown, more patrols downtown, those kinds of things, because the downtown San Angelo area is, if it falls apart, the city falls apart, and that's bad for everyone. So have you thought through any of these things? And I might be asking prematurely, but have you thought about these things?
Sure. So succinctly, the question is, what are we going to do about violent crime? Right? What are we going to do about trying to fix the crime issue that we're seeing right now? I mean, we see this in neighboring cities. We've had a spike in violent crime in neighboring cities across this region. I can tell you that we can do the best that we can with what we have. The San Angelo Police Department is currently facing staffing shortages, and we encourage anyone that would like to take up the honorable task of policing our city to apply with us. We need more bodies. We'll be down to a very low number next month, and so we have plenty of openings, and we encourage you to apply the next cycle. In relation to our special operation groups and things that are currently working, we're currently working major investigations that we can't really necessarily release that we'll think will be.
You know, and that's the sad part of many police departments is a lot of them are short-staffed. A lot of them have lost a lot of officers starting in 2020 when the pandemic hit, you know, and they've never recovered. Here we are 6 years later, and police departments are still barely hanging on with the people that they got.
Dramatic in pushing back against a lot of major crime, and we will continue to do so. And I think that also, we only have the ability to investigate with the resources we have and the ability to provide positive, you know, encounters, meaning stopping things before they happen requires additional staffing. We're also looking at drone as first responder to get more eyes on locations faster and sooner to push back as a force multiplier. We're looking at trying to put resources and technology to advance that to be as a force multiplier. But again, I think it comes back to, if you are a San Angelo resident and you want to make a difference, I'm asking you to step up and come apply with us. And we need some support there.
Cricket.
Is that any other questions I missed in that? It's a long question, so I'll make sure I got that right, Joe.
So if you're short manning, are there other things that the command staff at the police department can do to provide, I guess? I mean, I'm just thinking it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's a lot of parking lots in downtown. Are your guys patrolling Canyon Creek where everyone's asleep, or are you downtown? I mean, those are the questions.
Sure. I mean,
I'm asking about resource allocation.
Yeah, I mean, we only have finite resources. The question is, what do we have in regards to resource allocation in San Angelo? We have finite resources. We have patrol that's on mandatory overtime. We have most of our cases being conducted by CID, which is about half the staff it should be due to staffing. We have them working overtime to finish their cases as needed, which is almost always. And we actually had officers respond that night that were working overtime.
And for those of you that don't know what CID stands for, it means for the Criminal Investigation Division.
And so every angle, our police department is stretched. And there's really the simplest way is to address. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I've been in contact with our city council and our city leaders, and they believe they're going to be putting more resources towards this. And I believe them. I believe they're going to help fund us appropriately. And ultimately, I can tell you that with the allocation of resources, we're doing exactly what we need to be doing. Is we're putting the as many officers we can on the street to address the concerns that are happening as we have the ability to do so.
Okay, so that was a staffing about the recent situation in San Angelo, Texas. Let me show you exactly what area he was talking about, because I used to live in San Angelo. And I lived there for a lot of years. Went to college there. Did the college thing there. He said it was in the 100 block of East Concho. This right over here, there's winery. They make wine here. And you can go in there. There's like bars along this area. You can go in there and drink wine. San Angelo has a very active downtown area. This area right here is mostly antiques and, old kind of stuff. There's not any bars per se right here. So if no telling what part of this area that stabbing happened, I mean, this is not a bar. This is not a bar. So there's not really any bars other than this area over here. So no telling where it actually happened. It's just sad that somebody succumbed to their injuries, and the families have to pick up the pieces. And as that reporter was asking that individual, what are y'all going to do to assist with making the city safer? You say there's things that you could do, but ultimately somebody still lost their lives. Well, in many of the country's regions, Florida, even Texas, saw an influx of spring breakers. And I'll show you what the spring breakers did down in Houston. But let's start with Daytona Beach. We had a lot of state of emergency starting on Friday of last week due to the spring breakers. Here we go.
Daytona Beach is declaring a state of emergency starting tomorrow. This comes after chaos erupted during the start of spring break last weekend. With more unsanctioned events expected this weekend, city officials are working to keep the beaches safe. West 2's Pamela Combe explains the youth curfew and what locals have to say in response.
After thousands of people flooded Daytona Beach for an unsanctioned event last weekend, leading to chaos in parts of the city, leaders voted to take action. Some locals are welcoming the city of Daytona Beach's new curfew for anyone under 18.
I think that's pretty awesome. I think we definitely need that. That should actually be in place all the time.
Starting Friday and for the next 7 days, all minors will have to be at home by 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. the following morning. The curfew applies only within the special event zone stretching from University Boulevard to Silver Beach. This curfew won't apply to minors who are with their parents, who are playing in their front yard, or going to and from work. In the meeting, Police Chief Jakari Young says he has more ideas for future years on how to get the crowds under control, from placing an age limit on Airbnbs to requiring mandatory security guards at bars. But he says it's up to the city commission to decide how strict they want to be, giving examples of what other cities are doing during spring break.
So Miami Beach just flat out said, you are not welcome at all. We don't want you here. Everything's shut down. Panama City Beach is looking at managing it, but zero tolerance.
The city's hoping this curfew helps reduce the crowds. All agencies are still preparing.
Well, if you don't know what happened in Daytona, there were shootings, there were fightings on the beach. There was individuals hurt. All kinds of rowdy, reckless behavior. And for what? Some of these people don't even look like college students.
Including beach safety, because the massive crowds increase the number of calls that come in.
Inside of those big groups, we'll have smaller units staged so we can respond quickly. We do have an established emergency lane that we try and traverse throughout the day to keep people out of, but with that many people, it's difficult to get through in an expeditious manner.
Covering Volusia County in Daytona Beach, Pamela Combe, WESH 2 News.
And let me tell you what happened here in Texas, because the rodeo got messed up too. The rodeo got messed up too. I don't know what kind of memo went across social media, but there was people from all over the country, and let me show you what went on at the Houston rodeo. I tell you, it's been a wild week. It's been a wild week for police. It's been a wild week for cities. Usually these things go off without a hitch, right? Well, there was shootings and fightings and wigs being thrown off, all kinds of stuff at the rodeo. Let's see.
Congratulations, black people. We've done it again. We have done it again. First, we got kicked out of Miami. For spring break, Miami said they don't want black people down there. Go ahead and find you somewhere else to go. So we did. Our people went to Houston. In the midst from making our way downtown, from hitting the club, getting finessed out there, getting in fights all down there, we found our way over.
Tattoo you got on your right, stinking ass, cum stain, booty cheek, bitch.
Hey, oh, this is a family. Are you bitches going to the rodeo or the adult video awards? Because the way y'all dress, I can't tell if y'all going to the rodeo to ride horses or ride dick. You do know this is a family event, right? You do know children are going to be there, right? But I forgot. Who the fuck cares about children, right? Who the fuck cares what they see? As long as you do your bum-ass photo shoot for your bum-ass followers on Instagram and TikTok, who the fuck cares about the children, right?
So I saw the video where the Houston rodeo got shut down, and would you want to take a few guesses to why the Houston rodeo got shut down? I'll give you a few hints, right?
Let's see. We can't go nowhere without it being a what? Fill in the blank, family. It starts with an F.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
A fight.
It's so sad. When we do have an event and there's no fight, it's surprising.
This past weekend, man, the end of spring break for Texas, they said this was by far one of the wildest weekends that the Texas rodeo has seen thus far right here in Houston. They said the YNs were showing out this past weekend. They say they were twerking on top of cars, twerking. They said that the YNs was up in there squabbling inside the rodeo. Like,
I don't know what you believe. I don't know what age range you are, but for whatever reason, and this goes across the board, because y'all know I work with juveniles, you know I work with young adults. It goes from I would say 12 on to about 28. There are people that don't know how to act. They don't know how to respect authority. They don't want to respect authority. They don't want to act right. They want to feel entitled. They want to be out there just doing the most, showing their public hairs, you know, just dressing like they're at home and they just wake up and go wherever. And people are supposed to be okay with it. I don't know about you, but I don't like being around a family atmosphere and seeing people dressed like their clothes don't fit and there's everything just falling out everywhere.
No face coverings, they mean don't be coming in there with no shiesties on. No shiesty masks. It's too hot for that, for one. What you got a shiesty on for when it's this hot? You're going to pass out. You're going to have a heat stroke. Crazy, man.
One, that should tell y'all how bad it got. If they had to make a change mid-rodeo to the dress code, you know what they were seeing was crazy. And I was seeing videos and pictures of all the fits, and I'm like, wow, for a family-friendly event, this is a lot. And I for sure knew that the fits were crazy when mostly women were saying, okay, yeah, this is too much. Because usually women are a little bit more lax with the dress code and stuff like that. It's like, hey, let people wear what they want. But even this year, I seen a lot of women like, nah, there was a lot going on at the rodeo this year. So we're going to see if they actually enforce it, if they're able to enforce it. But it seems like they're really going to crack down on these outfits these next few weeks.
All right, we off the violence.
Rodeo had a bad year this year. It was just a bad year for the Houston Rodeo. And the reason why I say that, hear me out, y'all. First of all, you had Tina Knowles came down here selling half the Houston city, that small ass gumbo, or like as the Louisiana people say, that spur gumbo. Baby, when I tell you she came down here and had half the fucking city throwing up and had the shits off of that goddamn gumbo that she sold. We got over that. Okay, now that the finally city has come back to normal. Everybody, they got their balls under control. Everybody back to
So that's another thing that happened. Well, let's kind of go to my Facebook page and let me show you what's going on, because you get a lot of good stuff on Facebook, man. This is my Facebook page, Gage Investigative, and there's all kinds of stuff on here regarding true crime. This was the guy that shot up the movie theater. Hold on a second. I'm making sure I'm sharing that. This is the guy that shot up the movie theater. It said, just hours before one of the deadliest mass shootings in modern U.S. history, James Holmes took photos of himself that would later be shown in court. On July 20th, 2012, Holmes entered the Century 16 Theater in Aurora, Colorado, during a midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. Dressed in tactical gear, he set off tear gas canisters inside the packed auditorium and began firing into the crowd. 12 people were killed, 70 others were injured. Holmes was arrested outside the theater without resistance. During the investigation, authorities discovered photos on his phone and computer, including selfies taken before the attack, which were later introduced as evidence during his trial. Prosecutors argued the attack was carefully planned over the months. The case drew nationwide attention, particularly during the penalty phase, where jurors had to decide whether life imprisonment and the death penalty. In 2015, Holmes was sentenced to 12 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus thousands of additional years for attempted murder and explosive charges. The Aurora shooting remains one of the most devastating theater attacks in U.S. history. A night that began as a movie premiere and ended in unimaginable loss. And look at these photos. Look at this guy. You tell me he wasn't really planning to do anything bad? Look at the dude. Reminds me of other selfies we've seen recently. Well, let's look at this. It says 32 animals, 13 dead animals removed from the Ohio farm after report of animal cruelty. Let's see this story. There's a lot going on in Ohio, bro. A lot. It says 32 animals, 13 dead animals removed from Ohio farm after report of animal cruelty. I wonder if they got a video for this. That way I don't have to read it. I guess I'll start. It says Lisbon, Ohio. Multiple dead farm animals have been removed from a residence in Columbia County after reports of animal cruelty. 32 animals were removed from a farm in Lisbon on Thursday, 13 of which had died from alleged neglect. The Columbiana County Humane Society responded to the scene after being dispatched by the sheriff's office. The sheriff had initially received a call about a dispute over a cat, only to discover much more on arrival. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Wow. It says, just as I walked up, just as I approached the rear of the building, building 1 and building 2, there was a dead chicken on a stoop. There was a dead possum in a live trap. And when I came around the corner, there was a dead turkey, 4 dead goats, 3 dead geese, a dead pig, and some additional dead chickens as well. Chief Humane Officer Fabian Pike. The neighbor who made the call says they had noticed the farm's animals on their property before. Knowing how now what I know, they were coming up and asking me for help, asking me for food, water, shelter. Humane officials say the animals likely died from poor living conditions. Most were being used to supply a self-serve farm stand. The situation with the water in the building wasn't ideal. As far as food, we could never really prove if somebody was feeding them unless the animals were emaciated. The pig was definitely thin that we ended up rescuing it. There are resources, so just ask. I mean, a phone call is free. All 19 rescued animals have been placed in their forever home and charges are pending. They need to be. I never would have thought that there would be so many dead geese and ducks and goats. I loved her farm, and apparently she did not love it as much as I did. Is that not sad? Did y'all see that? I don't know if I was sharing that to you guys or not. Is that not sad? Let's continue on. So all those animals were dead. They were found on that farm in Ohio. Let's continue on. I have random people as friends on here, so if you want to go ahead and be a friend on my Facebook, send me a friend request. A Kentucky massage therapist was taken into custody after he allegedly assaulted a client during her appointment. Investigators said the victim became overwhelmed with fear and experienced tonic immobility, which rendered her physically helpless and incapable of consent. I tell you, it doesn't stop. It does not stop. It does not stop. These are some of my subs over here on Facebook. Okay, it says Ridgecrest Police Department. Critical incident notification structure fire on March 21st, 2026 at approximately 1:54 p.m. The Ridgecrest Police Department received reports of a fire in the 1300 block in North Downs. Callers also reported down power lines in the roadway in a single explosion in the area. RPD officers responded immediately along Kern County Fire Department, China Lake Fire Department, Kern County Sheriff Department, and Liberty Ambulance. Due to the high wind, the fire spread rapidly and threatened multiple structures. As a result, 2 residences sustained significant damage, and several nearby properties experienced minor damage to backyard areas. At this time, no injuries have been reported. Yeah, y'all have to be. I mean, I was outside a while ago and the wind shifted like no other. It was just blowing crazy when it was perfectly still and it was just hot. I mean, the wind can shift this fire from one direction to the other. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a fire professional, but you got to be very, very careful when you're cooking out and doing all that stuff outside. Isn't that a pretty car? Okay, this is out of Valdosta County. Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood said Tuesday that he wants promoters of unsanctioned, unpermitted social media events, sometimes called takeovers, to pay the cost the law enforcement incurs to manage these events, especially the ones that happen at Volusia County beaches. So he wants the people who throw these events to pay for the security, I guess, from the law enforcement. San Antonio threats, spring break threat. Iran warns U.S. and Israel nowhere in the world will be safe. I believe that. I believe that. I don't know why I started following the Ridgecrest Police Department, but this is a narcotics arrest. He was charged with Ridgecrest police arrest a man during traffic stop, seized firearms and suspected narcotics. Suspect Wisdom Kyle Lee, 30-year-old male from Ridgecrest. He was charged with felon in possession of a firearm, felon in possession of ammunition, possession of a controlled substance while armed, transport controlled substance, possession of controlled substance for sale, to manufacture and deliver here in Texas. On March 16, 2026, Sergeant Pertangelo and Officer Quiroz with the Ridgecrest Police Department conducted a traffic stop in the 200 block of West Wilson Avenue on a vehicle for vehicle code violations. During the stop, officers contacted the driver, identified as Kyle Lee Wisdom, and determined he had an outstanding arrest warrant. The subject was taken into custody without incident. Following the arrest, officers conducted a search of the vehicle. During the search, officers located a firearm, a black powder firearm, and a quantity of suspected methamphetamine. Wisdom is a convicted felon and is prohibited from owning firearms. Yeah, I don't know if you know that, or any of you watching. I don't know if you know that felons are not allowed to possess firearms. And let's see what this one's about. It said there may be more victims of suspected tri-state child rapist, assistant prosecutor. March 19, 2026. Cincinnati. A man pleaded not guilty to 49 counts of rape. 49 counts and gross sexual imposition Thursday. A judge set Dakota Collier's bond at $5 million. The assistant prosecutor asked for the high bond due to the young age of the victim. He also said there may be more victims and that Collier admitted to a lot of criminal behavior that they'll be looking into. Somebody's texting me. I told you I was live. Why are you texting me? So the judge said Collier could get life in prison if he's convicted. I tell you, there's just so much going around the world. Town to town to town. It never ends. But we like to spend our times on stuff that really is overrated. Already played itself out. There's a missing teen girl. Her name is Ember Rose Murray. Missing since March 18, 2026. Last seen in Cleveland, Texas. She's 17 years old. So if you've seen Ember Rose Murray, she's from Cleveland, Texas area. Make sure that you do the right thing. It says, since that moment, there has been no confirmed contact and concern continues to grow. Her family is asking for the public's help to spread awareness and support effort to locate her. Any small detail can make a difference. If you have any info, please contact authorities at 911. Once again, Ember Rose Murray, missing teen girl, 17 years old, out of Cleveland, Texas. Missing since March 18, 2026. This is out of Houston. Busted with enough fentanyl to kill hundreds of thousands of people. A Colorado man is set to spend the rest of his life behind bars. This guy right here, I'm going to try to get him on my show because he has a lot of conspiracy stuff around his property, but he talks about, I don't know, the stuff he talks about, he's put it all together. It kind of makes sense a little bit, Okay, let's go to Florida here. A Florida woman was charged with open murder after allegedly shooting her boyfriend as he slept and attempting to dismember him before burying his remains in multiple locations throughout her yard. Let's see what the hell happened to this. I'm intrigued. I really am. Let me see if I pulled it up. Hold on, I got to share the right page. She dismembered him, buried his stuff in the backyard. True Crime News. Florida woman allegedly shot her boyfriend in his sleep, tried to dismember him before burying him in the yard. Teacher killed in fatal prank. Let's see. I remember that one. Let's go to this story. Bay County, Florida. A woman has been charged with open murder in connection with the death of her boyfriend, whose body parts were found buried in her yard. The Bay County Sheriff's Office announced they received a missing persons report on March 14th for Joseph Eller, 38. He was last seen on March 12th, and his father reported hearing him argue with his girlfriend, Ashley Everett, 32, at around 4 a.m. that day. Police made contact with Everett on March 16th, and she allegedly claimed she had argued with Eller, and he had left the house with a friend. That day, Eller's father called the police again, reporting Everett behaving suspiciously. He said he heard gunshots on the night he heard the couple arguing, and that Everett had burned items in a fire pit and barred him from accessing parts of the house. In addition, he said bed sheets were missing and soil was disturbed in the yard. Investigators returned to the house where a witness told them Everett had admitted to shooting Eller while he slept. What? According to the sheriff's office, Everett allegedly confessed to shooting Eller twice and attempting to dismember his body before burying him in the yard. A search revealed Eller's remains in multiple areas in the yard under the freshly disturbed soil. What? Everett was charged with open murder and taken into custody without incident. According to Captain Daffin of the Bay County Sheriff's Office, evidence in the home did not suggest that she allegedly acted in self-defense. He said Everett gave a reason as to why things happened, but you're getting one side of the story. The other person not here to tell their story, so I don't put a lot of credence into what somebody who just took somebody's life has to say. The investigation is ongoing. What? That's all I got to say. What is really going on in the world, bro? Okay, the D1 is a sense of major structure fire in Downton Reeves. I don't know where that is, but that doesn't look like a good thing. See, I don't know why I subscribe to Ridgecrest, but they have a lot of stuff going on there. We're requesting the public's help in identifying the male in the attached picture. The subject is suspected of shoplifting from Walmart. Please contact Detective Cushman at 760-499-5116 or K. Cushman at ridgecrest/ca.gov if you have any information. What? There's the individual right there, suspected of shoplifting from Walmart. Wonder what he took. What do y'all think he took? Put your answers in the chat. Let me see. Let me put his face up again. What do you think this man allegedly shoplifted from Walmart? Let me hear from you in the chat. What do you think he suspectedly shoplifted from Walmart? And we're back to Orlando. We were just talking about the spring breakers. Wow, they're threatening the universities to know that they've been arrested on spring break. That's the first. Let's see what this is. I'm going to follow you. In the early morning hours of June 6, 1996, in the quiet suburb of Rowlett, Texas, 26-year-old Darlie Rodier, we've heard of her, called 911 claiming that an intruder had broke. I wrote her. I was hoping she would write me back. This is the lady that claimed that an intruder broke into her home and attacked her family. When the police arrived, they found a gruesome scene. Darlie's two young sons, 6-year-old Devin and 5-year-old Damon, had been stabbed repeatedly while he slept in the living room. Darlie herself had slash wounds on her neck and a deep cut in her arms. She insisted a masked man had broken in, stabbed her and the boys, and fled through the garage. But almost immediately, investigators noticed inconsistency. There was no evidence of forced entry, no footprints from a suspected intruder, and no blood trail leaving the house. A bread knife from Darlie's own kitchen was found with fibers from torn window screen, suggesting the crime scene had been staged. Just 8 days after the murder, during what was supposed to be a solemn graveside memorial for Devin's birthday, Darlie was filmed laughing, chewing gum, and spraying silly string over the son's grave. The footage showed repeatedly during her trial painted her as a cold and remorseless. Prosecutors argued Darlie killed her children out of financial desperation, citing credit card debt, a life insurance policy, and pressure from a lavish lifestyle. The defense claimed Darlie was a grieving mother, being unfairly judged for her appearance and behavior. Despite the controversy, Darlie was convicted of Damon's murder in 1997 and sentenced to death. Nearly 3 decades later, she remains on death row, and the case still sparks debate, with some believing she was wrongfully convicted and others guilty. I don't know what just happened. I just blinked out and blinked back on. So I've done a live on this lady. I reached out to her on death row. I wrote her an email, but I haven't heard anything back. Multiple suspects were charged after the death of an 11-year-old allegedly revealed a human trafficking operation that involved children being essentially waterboarded. Jesus. National news. Fentanyl found inside Barbies sold at discount stores, police say. See, you can't get this kind of stuff anywhere else. We're discussing it. Where are we at? 12 Gauge Investigative Podcast. That's where we're at. You can't get this stuff anywhere else. Are you enjoying what I'm presenting? I hope you are, because I'm having fun doing it. Look at this. This is San Antonio. A car falls off I-35. Woman dies after car plunges from upper level of I-35. That is terrible. That's just crazy. And here we have something that I really enjoy as well. This is what recovery looks like. My days in addiction versus the picture is 7 years apart. If you have anything negative to say, you can just keep it pushing. Thank you. Wow. That's what addiction looks like right there. It definitely looks like that. What the hell you mean check my internet? Am I still on? I've had problems with internet all freaking day. That's what addiction looks like, y'all. It's terrible. But she looks beautiful right there, coming out of the dark. News 4 San Antonio. A pastor in Arizona was allegedly found dead with his hands pinned to the wall in a style similar to the crucifixion, as part of a larger plot to kill over a dozen religious leaders. Jackson, Tennessee. For immediate release, March 20th, 2026. Fugitive wanted out of Shelby County. March 20th, 2026, the Jackson Police Department has announced the successful apprehension of 27-year-old Isaiah Hayes, fugitive wanted out of Shelby County on multiple severe charges involving the sexual exploitation and rape of a child. Was notified by the Memphis Police Department that Hayes was wanted in connection with the aggravated rape of a 9-month-old infant. Following this notification, JPD investigators utilized flock safety technology with Hayes had been traveling within the city of Jackson over the past several days. Wow. All right, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't even know if there's anybody still here. I got booted, that's all I know. Well, it's at an hour anyway, so I guess we'll cut it. Thank you all so much. I'll try again tomorrow to do some more. Thank you so much. Maestro, cue that music.
On in San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer.